Hey folks, have a very quick update. I had someone ask a question in the comments of one of my previous videos, which was, what does bone pain when you have bone metastasis feel like? This is a really hard question to answer. One, because it doesn't always seem to be the same, and I'm sure for every single person it is different. So just keep in mind that what I'm about to share is my own personal experience. Everyone else is probably experiences something else, and just because what I am describing may be symptoms of my bone metastasis, that does not mean that that is what those same symptoms will mean in someone else. So please keep that in mind. This is by no means a video you should use to try and self-diagnose anything. It's always important though, if you are experiencing anything, especially if you do have a history of cancer and you're starting to have new symptoms, talk to your doctor. It is not going to hurt to give them a phone call and just say, hey, I'm concerned. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. Now, when the bone pain started for me, it actually started probably not even related to the bone metastasis. Back in December, I started having what I always called hip pain. But it was also kind of in like my lower right back and buttocks, and kind of going down where it would be like the sciatic nerve type thing. And so how I'd always like pictured that in my head was like, oh, maybe my hip is out or something. Like, I've been to the chiropractor before, and it was kind of that feeling. And it got to a point where like I was walking and I would literally get this sharp shooting pain from right above my right butt, all shooting all the way down like into my leg. So it felt like sciatica pain. And that's what I kind of figured that it was. Turns out it was for the most part, but I was also describing it wrong. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. I went into urgent care because it got to a point where I was like, I would take a step and I would get this sharp pain so much that my leg would give out and I would fall to the ground. So I went in, they got me in to see an orthopedist who handles like bones and all of that kind of stuff. So specialist there. And I'd recently had my PET scan, but I hadn't gotten to talk to anyone about the results or anything yet. And so she was like, well, I'm looking at the scan and the notes from your scan, and the pain you're describing doesn't match what I'm seeing from the notes on the scan. So that was at least one nice thing, is that sciatica type pain had nothing to do probably with the bone metastasis at that point. That was legitimately like I kinked something. And she gave me some different stretches to do, and within about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I was better. But at that point is when I started to also kind of hurt in other ways as well. And I, at first, because I hadn't really gotten to talk to my doctor or anything like that, and we hadn't dove further into what that scan and what those results from that scan might mean, I just kind of kept it in the back of my head. And it all started, and it was more my right leg. And at this point, I know whenever I would say hip, but it was more along the outside. I'll even stand up, and I don't know if you guys can see. Here, we're gonna back up. Here we go. So if it was like around this area, I always thought that was my hip. Like that was kind of like the hip pain. But according to the orthopedist, if you're having hip pain, you're gonna feel it more in the groin. Back here, this is more pelvic pain. So really important distinction to have. But I was also having it go down into my right leg. So it was kind of all that whole area, and then along my back, along here. And that's where I'm feeling it very much now, is along here, down in and around here through my pelvis, down into my right femur and my leg, and then sometimes down into my tailbone. That's not fun. If you've ever hit your tailbone on anything and then you have to sit, yeah, it hurts. So that's kind of where I'm at. When I start to get that tailbone pain, it's also just constant, and I just can't get comfortable. But as far as in looking at, I got to look at the scan yesterday at one of my doctor's appointments. My pelvis just lights up like a light bright. The bone metastasis is all over in that area. And so I'm constantly, even when I'm on pain meds, feeling something. And for the most part, it feels very achy. That would be like kind of the more constant pain, but it goes also almost into like, I don't know if burning pain is a good description. It's really hard to describe. But then sometimes I do start to get more sharper pains in specific areas where, and I'm sure you've had pain like this, where it hits you really quick and you literally go, you can't, it's just like an involuntary reaction. And occasionally that, I will get that, and I'll either get it along that, my lower back there, but sometimes in the pelvis on that right side, and now also going down into that hip, into that feeling where like kind of that groin area is, which is where your femur and your hip meet. And so I've been getting some of that as well. As far as the femur and like the actual leg, most of the pain I've been getting in my leg has, there are some sharp times, like a sharp pain when it'll hit, but a lot of times that one is more just achy. And I find myself, just without even thinking about it, just rubbing my leg, just going like, ow, that kind of hurts. And it almost feels like if I could, put heat on it or soak, it would help it feel better. And sometimes it does. And like, it doesn't quite feel like it's a muscular issue, but then at the same time, that's the only thing I have to compare it to. So it's very odd not to be able to like, I'm just gonna stretch that muscle and have it feel better. You can't do that. So I think that's another distinguishing thing with this bone metastasis is most of the pain that I've had throughout my life when it comes to like injuries and different things, a lot of times it revolves around your muscles and like a strained muscle or different things like that. And there's things you can do to help alleviate that pain. A massage, stretching, things like that. And also with muscular pain, a lot of times you will have a loss of range of motion, which means maybe if you've, like hurt your shoulder in some way, you can't lift or rotate your arm as much as you have before the injury. I haven't experienced any of that. I have no loss of range of motion at all. Sometimes I hurt and I don't really want to move a whole lot, but as far as like if someone were to pick up my leg or pick up my arm and move it around, nothing has changed there. I don't know if that is common with bone metastasis, if that's just me, or what, but that's definitely a distinguishing thing that I have been able to determine that it's not muscular, because I haven't lost any of that range of motion or anything like that. This video has gotten a lot longer than I thought it would be. So that's like the main thing. The metastasis that's in my back and my spine, that one is more of like a burning pain. That I feel kind of across my back, but centered in that vertebrae area. And that is one that I want to say it's pretty distinctive because like it doesn't feel like a pain that you can like stretch out or move away from. It's just there. And one of the few things that I have found that has helped with that is heat for me, either like basically leaning back on a heating pad, being in a hot bath. I'm really excited about that hot tub when we get it. And then my shoulder, that's kind of been the weirdest one because that one feels like it should be something where I've lost range of motion or it should hurt when I move my arm, but it doesn't. So it has to be something else, and it doesn't always hurt. My shoulder so far is the thing that's giving me probably the least amount of trouble. But when it does hurt, it hurts. And while I can move it, I don't really want to move it a whole lot. And then same thing for me right now, heat is kind of my best friend. I've tried a little bit with ice on my shoulder and that hasn't been bad. It just hasn't been my go-to. So I don't know if this video is gonna help anybody. Or if anyone wants to commiserate with their own bone pain, or if anyone else has experienced anything like that, leave comments below. I know there's a lot of people who are like, what is it? What does it mean? How can I tell? But again, do not use this video or anyone else's videos online to try and determine your own diagnoses. If you're worried about something or if you're in pain, talk to your doctor. It is the least amount of work for potentially the most amount of gain for your own health. As talk to your doctor, catch anything soon, as soon as possible. Hopefully the best is that they're gonna be like, yeah, pull the muscle. That's what I'm hoping for anybody who might be going through that. And if not, you've caught it early and you're staying on top of stuff. So keep that in mind. I appreciate you guys. This is, I know, kind of a out of the ordinary video, it feels like for me. But thank you, be kind, make good choices, and I'll see you next time.